Some adventures push people to their limits, others end in tragedy. In this video, we explore 5 of the most disturbing outdoor adventure deaths ever recorded. These accidents are haunting, heartbreaking moments where nature's power meets human vulnerability, leaving behind stories that are as unforgettable as they are chilling. Each one serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly wonder can turn to danger. In July 2025, Omar Farang Zin, a 49-year-old motorcycling enthusiast from Samarati, Italy, embarked on a solo trip through the Romanian Carpathians, a region renowned for its breathtaking beauty and wild bear population. Known among friends for his cheerful spirit and adventurous nature, Omar sought out the famous Trans-Făgăraș Highway, often described as one of the world's most scenic drives. But what began as a journey of wonder and exploration ended in horror when Omar came face to face with a beautiful and deadly creature. Omar worked at Milan's Malpensa airport and had a deep passion for travel and motorbiking. Friends described him as warm, generous, and always smiling, someone who saw beauty in the world around him. Romania's forested mountain roads, dramatic vistas, and frequent wildlife sightings seemed to be a perfect match for his adventurous spirit. Like many tourists drawn to the country's wild side, Omar was captivated by the presence of brown bears, which roam freely in many parts of the Carpathians. However, his fascination with the animals would ultimately prove fatal. On the day before the incident, Omar uploaded a series of photos and videos to Facebook, showing himself riding past bears and stopping to observe them up close. In one clip, he commented on the beauty of a bear as it approached him on a gravel road. In another, he took a smiling selfie beside a bear cub, blissfully unaware that a protective mother bear was likely nearby. Romanian authorities later confirmed that his phone contained numerous close-up shots of bears, including moments where one animal was clearly approaching him. The fatal attack occurred on July 3rd near Lake Vidraru in Argeș County, along the Trans-Făgăraș route. According to local forestry officials and mountain rescue teams, Omar had once again stopped to interact with bears and allegedly attempted to feed one, but what Omar failed to consider was that he was trying to approach a mother bear and her cubs. Mother bears are notorious for their ferocity when it comes to protecting their cubs. Likely perceiving Omar as a threat, the mother bear became aggressive and charged. The animal attacked Omar, dragging his body roughly 60 to 80 meters into a ravine before mauling him. Emergency responders, including firefighters, forestry personnel, and mountain rescue units, arrived on the scene shortly after the alarm was raised. The bear's behavior remained aggressive and erratic, posing a danger to the rescuers themselves. According to the Argeș Mountain Rescue Team, the bear followed them during the search, attacking several times as they attempted to locate Omar. Despite the threats, responders managed to reach the ravine after an hour-long search and found Omar's lifeless body. He had sustained catastrophic injuries from the mauling, and authorities confirmed he had died before they could intervene. Even though Omar was wearing full protective motorcycling gear and a helmet, the force and ferocity of the bear attack overwhelmed any defenses he had. The bear involved in the attack was later located and euthanized, a decision taken by Romanian authorities to prevent further incidents. Local forestry officials emphasized that Omar had ignored posted warnings not to feed or approach wild animals. The incident, they noted, illustrated the growing problem of human-bear conflict in the region. Romania is home to Europe's largest brown bear population, estimated at over 10,000 individuals. In recent years, bear encounters have become increasingly frequent as habitat loss, logging, and poor waste management draw animals closer to human settlements and roads. Nearly 30 people have been killed by bears in Romania over the last 2 decades. In 2024, the country doubled its annual bear culling quota to address the rising number of incidents, including attacks on people and livestock. Omar's death sparked a wave of tributes on social media. Friends, colleagues, and fellow travelers mourned his loss, remembering him as everyone's friend, a man with an open heart and a fearless spirit. His final Facebook posts, filled with awe and wonder at the Romanian landscape and its wild inhabitants, now stand as tragic reminders of the dangers of ignoring wildlife safety guidelines. Though deeply tragic, Omar Farang Zin's story highlights the urgent need for better education on wildlife interactions, stronger enforcement of safety rules, and continued efforts to manage bear populations responsibly. In the early hours of July 4th, 2025, a tense night at Camp Mystic, a cherished Christian girls' camp nestled in the Texas Hill Country, erupted into chaos. Torrential rains turned deadly in minutes, transforming the peaceful Guadalupe River into a raging wall of destruction. As flash flooding tore through the campgrounds, dozens of young girls and staff were swept away, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable devastation and heartbreak. Founded nearly a century ago, Camp Mystic had long been a place of joy, faith, and lifelong friendships. Located in Hunt, Texas, the camp sat along both sides of the Guadalupe River and had welcomed generations of girls aged 7 to 17 each summer. The camp operated with a strong sense of community and Christian values, offering young campers a place to bond, play, and grow. This summer, over 200 girls were attending, spread across several cabins, including the Bubble Inn, which housed some of the camp's youngest attendees. Though many campers were evacuated in time, the sheer speed and magnitude of the flood overwhelmed all efforts. The National Weather Service reported that the river rose over 26 feet in just 45 minutes, an event not seen in the region since 1987. With the flash floods surging in the darkness, campers and staff had little warning. The Bubble Inn, situated perilously close to both the river and a nearby creek, was struck directly. 13 girls and 2 counselors were inside when the waters hit. Despite desperate efforts to find safety, many were trapped by the torrent. Some managed to climb into trees or onto higher ground, but others were overcome by the powerful current. Among the lives lost were 10 girls from the Bubble Inn: Renee Smeisterle, Janie Hunt, Sarah Marsh, Lila Bonner, Eloise Peck, Lainey Landry, Anna Margaret Bellows, Linnie McCown, Winnie Naylor, and Mary Stevens. The victims, all aged between 8 and 10, were described by their families as radiant, kind-hearted, and full of promise. Lila and Eloise were best friends and died side by side. Renee's family recalled that she had been having the time of her life at the camp. Sarah's grandmother described her as a spunky ray of light, while Lainey's cousin called her discovery a miracle. Camp counselor Chloe Childress, 18, was also among the dead. A recent graduate of the Kincaid School, she had been preparing to start college that fall. She was remembered for her kindness and the support she offered others. Richard Dick Eastland, the 70-year-old camp director and a father figure to many, died while trying to save campers. His wife, Tweety, survived. Eastland had led Camp Mystic since 1974. He succumbed to injuries aboard a rescue helicopter en route to a Houston hospital. Their deaths underscored the selflessness of staff who tried to protect the girls in their care. As the waters receded, search and rescue teams worked tirelessly through mud, debris, and fast-moving currents to locate the missing. Heavy equipment was brought in, and volunteers waded through waterlogged ruins, often uncovering heartbreaking scenes. Mattresses and blankets, still soaked and covered in sludge, lay scattered through cabins. Belongings, clothes, and personal mementos were strewn across the devastated grounds. A photo taken inside the Bubble Inn after the flood showed the terrain swallowed in mud and damage, a silent testimony to the terror that unfolded. The current confirmed death toll at Camp Mystic climbed to 27 campers and staff. Several girls and counselors, including Catherine Ferruso, Molly DeWitt, Ellen Getton, and Abby Pohl, remain missing. Across the broader Texas Hill Country, at least 82 people died, including 15 children. Entire families were torn apart. Reese and Paula Zunker, a beloved soccer coach, and his wife, were confirmed dead. Their 2 children remain missing. Sisters Blair and Brooke Harbor, ages 13 and 11, were swept away while visiting their grandparents near the river. Their grandparents are also missing. Another prominent loss was Jane Ragsdale, the director of Heart of the Hills Camp, who was remembered as the guiding spirit of the institution. In the wake of the disaster, authorities pledged a full investigation into the timeliness and effectiveness of flood warnings. While flash flood emergencies had been issued in the early hours before the flood, many in the area reported receiving no alerts, possibly due to limited cell service. The tragedy has ignited debates over emergency preparedness and the vulnerability of summer camps in flood-prone areas. Officials acknowledged that while some camps had taken action, others were caught completely off guard. As families continue to mourn and search crews press on, Camp Mystic stands silent, its buildings broken, and its community forever changed. For nearly a century, it had been a place of light. In 2025, it became a symbol of how swiftly nature can turn joy into sorrow. What began as a peaceful family outing on a warm Saturday morning in February 2025 ended in shock and devastation for Sandeep Purohit and those who accompanied him. A well-known tourist destination just outside Mumbai turned into the site of a rare and deadly incident, leaving witnesses shaken and raising serious concerns about visitor safety and emergency preparedness in natural reserves. Sandeep, a 44-year-old resident of Koperkairane in Navi Mumbai, had visited Karnala Bird Sanctuary with his wife, son, and a group of fellow tourists. Known for its rugged terrain and popular trekking trails, the sanctuary draws nature lovers and families seeking scenic hikes to the summit of Karnala Fort, perched over 1,400 feet above sea level. Sandeep, described by friends as a devoted father and avid outdoorsman, planned the visit as a bonding trip with his family. Among the other visitors that day were students from a local engineering college, enjoying the monsoon air and the region's natural beauty. While ascending the trail toward the fort, the group was suddenly attacked by a swarm of aggressive bees. The swarm descended without warning, stinging at least 10 people, including Sandeep, his wife, and his son. The attack caused chaos among the hikers, many of whom dropped to the ground in an attempt to avoid further stings. Witnesses later reported that Sandeep, in a state of panic, fled uphill along the uneven rocky path. As he ran, he tripped and fell violently, hitting his head on the jagged terrain. When the distress call reached authorities at 11 a.m., forest staff and members of the non-government organization, Nisarg Mitra, mobilized a rescue team. Due to the remote location and challenging topography, it took them approximately 45 minutes to reach the site. Upon arrival, they found multiple tourists nursing painful bee sting injuries and Sandeep lying unconscious. He was quickly evacuated and transported to Panvel Subdistrict Hospital along with the others. However, by the time they arrived, Sandeep was declared dead on arrival. Medical professionals noted that Sandeep had suffered abrasions to the forehead and raised the possibility of fatal head trauma from the fall. However, another serious concern was the possibility of an anaphylactic reaction to the multiple bee stings. Dr. Ashok Gait, superintendent of the hospital, stated that while minor cuts were present, the full cause of death could only be confirmed through a detailed histopathological examination. Blood samples were taken and sent to Sion Hospital for further analysis. In some cases of multiple stings, even individuals without known allergies can experience cardiac arrest due to venom toxicity or anaphylaxis. The attack injured at least 9 others, including Sandeep's wife and son, all of whom were treated for bee stings and later discharged. Among the injured were several students from Virmata Jijabai Technological Institute who were part of the trekking group. The Forest Department has since launched an investigation to determine what provoked the attack. Officials emphasize that bees in the region are not typically aggressive unless disturbed. While accidental, the incident marked the first of its kind in the sanctuary in recent memory. Senior Police Inspector Gajanan Gaj confirmed that an accidental death report had been filed and authorities would continue to examine all evidence. Rescue officials and forest staff expressed their condolences to the family, reiterating that such incidents are extremely rare, but highlight the unpredictability of nature. In the aftermath, the tragedy has sparked wider conversations about the safety measures in place at India's wildlife and trekking sites. Many questioned whether adequate warnings and emergency protocols were in place to deal with such rare but deadly natural threats. Meanwhile, the community of Navi Mumbai mourned the loss of Sandeep. What began as a summer outing to one of California's hidden natural gems ended in an unimaginable tragedy. On June 18, 2025, Valentino Creus entered the frigid waters of Rattlesnake Falls to perhaps cool off, but it soon became obvious that he was struggling. 2 other men, Matthew Schonecker and Matthew Anthony, dove in a desperate attempt to save their struggling friend. What unfolded that day left multiple communities in mourning. Matthew, Anthony, and Valentino were all numeraries of Opus Dei, a Catholic organization dedicated to spiritual growth through daily life and work. As numeraries, they had committed to celibate lives of service, mentorship, and prayer. All 3 were highly accomplished. Anthony, 44, originally from St. Louis, was a Notre Dame alumnus who held a senior leadership position overseeing Opus Dei's men's apostolic activities in the U.S. and Canada. Schonecker, 50, from Milwaukee, had a doctorate in biomedical engineering and contributed to advancements in cochlear implant technology before directing youth programs and centers in Los Angeles and New York. Valentino, 59, born in the Philippines, was a partner at an accounting firm in Los Angeles. Known for his cheerfulness and wisdom, he mentored students and families with deep dedication. That morning, the group of 7 numeraries began their day with Mass at 5:30 a.m. before heading into the Sierra Nevadas Tahoe National Forest. They hiked nearly 7 miles over rugged terrain to reach Rattlesnake Falls, a 50-foot cascade flowing into a natural pool. The location was remote, with no cell service, and the air was filled with the sound of rushing water. After lunch on a ledge near the pool, Schonecker and another hiker jumped in. The water, around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, was much colder than expected, and Schonecker remarked on the strength of the current as they exited on the far bank. Valentino, initially hesitant due to the height, eventually followed. But almost immediately something went wrong. He began to panic in the frigid, fast-moving water. Hearing his distress, Schonecker ran back and jumped in again. Moments later, Anthony followed. None of them resurfaced. The remaining hikers, concerned but unsure of what had happened, searched downstream, hoping the men had found safety. When they saw no sign of them, they used a satellite SOS function to contact emergency services. A helicopter arrived later and airlifted the survivors, but poor weather delayed further action. 3 days later, Diver Juan Heredia responded to the call for help. A volunteer and father of two, Heredia hiked to the falls on an injured ankle. Diving without an oxygen tank, he braved the brutally cold waters multiple times. At approximately 45 feet deep, he found Anthony's body. Just below the waterfall at 47 feet, he found Schoenecker and Creus, together, touching. Schoenecker's hand rested on Valentino's arm, suggesting that he may have reached his friend but was unable to bring him up. Authorities believe the cold water impaired their ability to breathe and move, and the force of the falls made resurfacing impossible. Though all three were known for physical fitness, the conditions overwhelmed them. Experts later warned of the dangers of cold shock and hypothermia in mountain waterways, where even summer temperatures can be lethal. Friends and family expressed deep sorrow, but also reverence for the way the men died, sacrificing themselves for another. To many who knew them, their final moments reflected the lives they led, grounded in service, compassion, and quiet heroism. In early June 2025, a father and daughter set out on what was meant to be a memorable and meaningful hiking expedition in Maine's Baxter State Park. Their plan to summit Mount Katahdin, the state's tallest peak, was the fulfillment of a long-held dream. But in the harsh and unforgiving conditions near the summit, something went terribly wrong. Tim Keiderling, 58, and his 28-year-old daughter, Esther Keiderling, both of Ulster Park, New York, were experienced hikers and devoted members of the Bruderhof, a Christian community rooted in shared spiritual life and work. Tim was a father of 6 and a former schoolteacher known for his vivid storytelling and infectious joy. He worked at Riften Equipment, a medical supply company, alongside his brother Joe. Esther, his oldest child, was a quiet, thoughtful woman with a love for poetry and literature. She also worked for Riften Equipment and was known for her sensitivity, intellect, and deep spirituality. The pair began their journey early on the morning of Sunday, June 1st. Setting out from the Abel campground, they aimed to ascend the 5,269-foot peak via the challenging Abel Trail, well known for its steep, rocky inclines and exposure to the elements. It was a goal they had spoken of for years, and Esther acknowledged both the excitement and danger of the climb in a post on her Substack, where she noted her nerves and hinted at the trail's infamy. They were last seen around 10:15 a.m. near the Hunt Trail. That day, weather conditions on the mountain rapidly deteriorated. Witnesses described freezing temperatures, snow, sleet, and winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour. Though Tim and Esther reportedly reached the summit or came close, their descent turned fatal. Investigators later concluded that they may have veered off the designated trail near the cathedral cutoff area. Their absence was first noted when they failed to return on June 1st. Park rangers noticed their vehicle was still parked in a day-use lot long after dark, triggering concern. A large-scale search operation was launched on June 3rd, involving helicopters, ground crews, K-9 units, and aerial thermal imaging. More than 30 game wardens, assisted by Baxter State Park rangers, combed the Abel and Hunt trails as well as the tablelands, hoping to locate the missing hikers. But the weather continued to challenge the effort, delaying recovery and deepening the family's anxiety. Tim's body was discovered on June 3rd near the summit by a Maine Warden Service K-9 team. Esther was found the following day in a boulder field, about 1,000 feet from her father's location. A medical examiner confirmed that Tim died from complications of hypothermia, while Esther suffered fatal blunt force trauma, believed to have occurred when she slipped on the icy slope and collided with rocks during an uncontrolled fall. The deaths of Tim and Esther have left their family and community in profound grief. In statements shared by their church and relatives, loved ones spoke of their deep faith, shared love for the outdoors, and their close bond as father and daughter. Their final hours, though tragic, were spent doing something they cherished, walking together through nature, seeking beauty and connection with the divine. As the Bruderhof community and the wider public mourned the loss, family members expressed both sorrow and gratitude for the outpouring of prayers and support. While many questions remain, one certainty endures: Tim and Esther were remembered for lives marked by devotion, gentleness, and courage.